everybody, Bobby Chiu here. So today I want to talk to you about 4 things I wish I would have known when I was in school. There's a lot of really great teachers out there, but many of them didn't actually reach their artistic goals. And so it wasn't until after school, until I started to strive and reach my own artistic goals, that I started to learn all these other things that I want to share with you today. Number 1, start your transition now. When I was going from one way of life, being a student, to another way of life, being a professional, I kind of see it like I was on one island trying to get to another island. And it's a lot easier to get from one island to another if you start building a bridge from one island to the next, instead of just trying to take a leap of faith and trying to swim as fast as you can through shark-infested waters. And what I mean by a bridge is by starting to do things that you would usually do in that other way of life that you're striving for. So being a professional, you want to start going to conventions, you want to start going to events, workshops, start taking commissions, start building your network, and start meeting professionals through social media, through visiting studios, bridging the gap between one life as a student to the other as being a professional. When I was in school, I thought the best way to spend my time was just to spend it all on my education, which to me that meant I won't go out, I won't go to events yet, or try to visit any studios. I wanted to just concentrate on school so that when I graduated, I would graduate at my potential, or at least that's what I thought. When I graduated, I had a really hard time starting my career because I knew nothing about the industry. I knew no studios, I didn't know any professionals. It wasn't until I started going to events, started to go to Comic-Cons, workshops, engaging with social media and art forums, and that was when my career actually started to gain some traction. Number 2, act like our artistic role model. The ultimate successful artist, who is she or he? When does the person get up in the morning? What kind of routines does the artist have? How much and how consistent do they study or paint and draw? How do they conduct themselves? How do they treat other people? What do they post? How do they speak when talking? If I had to go back in time and do it all over again, I wouldn't be that concerned because I would just do the things, the traits, the practices that have helped my career the most. Once we start to adopt great practices and principles, our lives tend to fast forward to match our actions. Act like until we become the professional that we would love to have as a role model, and people will slowly start to see you as such. How would your role model handle harsh or mean comments? Would they take the high road or would they start arguing back? I don't know. Everybody has different ideas of what their role models are. Just think about what your artistic role model would do and go and do that. Number 3, graduation is not such a big deal. I used to think graduation was the be-all, end-all, that it was such an important milestone in my life, in my career. But looking back now, I see that it wasn't. I used to think that after I graduate, my first job needs to be a rock star position at a rock star studio. But now I know that most of my artistic role models never started out like that. They started off with very modest jobs and projects. For example, Oscar-winning director Brenda Chapman, she started on Inspector Gadget. Chris Sanders, the creator of Lilo and Stitch, he started on designing props for the Muppet Babies. And Ian McKeg started off on Sesame Street. I used to think after graduation, that's when studying stops, and then the rest of my learning will just continue through learning on the job, doing projects. But what if you don't have the most challenging projects, the most challenging job? Over the years, I learned that many of my artistic role models, they continue to study, practice, learn outside of their work, doing extra things to expand their knowledge or sharpen their skills, like continuing to take classes, going to life drawing, cafe sketching, things like that. Things to constantly stretch their potential. Things that they don't necessarily need to do, but they do it anyways. And that's one of the biggest differences between a high-level artist and everybody else. It's not because they're more talented, it's because they know that university or college is just a tiny class in the school of life. And they adopt the habits of a student for life. I used to put so much pressure on myself for graduating, but if I knew what I know now, my efforts would go into keeping a great and healthy pace during school and continuing that pace after school. This will help us avoid burning out from overworking for long periods of time. Many times it's not just mentally burning out, but it's physically burning out as well. There's way too many students that I see that end up developing arm problems or wrist problems before they even graduate, before they even start their careers. So as the saying goes, life isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Let's treat it as such. Number 4, spend as much time as you can on the things that you like to do. Sometimes this can be very tricky for students because they don't know enough of things yet to know if they would like it or not. But a lot of times we do know what we don't like. One of the best things I ever did was I spent as much time on my favorite subjects as I could and as little time on the subjects I didn't like the most, like computer animation history. Does it really matter if I know how many hairs were on Sully for Monsters, Inc.? Or if I get an A on my Japanese class? For me, no. As long as I didn't fail, I wouldn't care. To be totally transparent, nobody has ever asked me about my grades. Nobody's even asked me if I graduated or not. Nobody really cares, except for my parents perhaps, but even they know now that didn't really matter. In the end, it's far more about your portfolio and your attitude. So if we keep those two in mind and keep working hard to improve on them, it'll take us much further. Now, if you like this video, subscribe to my channel and then go to schoolism.com where you'll find over 100 free video interviews with many of the industry's top artists, all for free. As always, I hope these tips have helped you and I hope to see you guys next time.